Yeah, so what's required of us to move toward him in the places of disappointment and uncertainty versus the self-preserving reflex to run away?
That's a great question, because I think self-preservation does tend to make us want to isolate or take matters into our own hands. And so for me in my journey, the most helpful things have been to faithfully draw near to God in prayer, even when I don't want to, even when I don't feel it, even when my emotions are messy. I felt like there was a time about 1.5 years ago where I was doing a prayer retreat at a monastery, and I felt like the Lord said, you feel like all your prayers have to be so neat and tidy. I want your messy prayers. I want your honest prayers, because when you bring me that's bringing me all of your heart. It's not just the parts that you think I can handle. It's the parts that you're afraid to even admit that are there. And I feel like God said, if you bring me your whole heart, I can take care of the rest of your life, but I want your heart. And so I think there's an honesty in prayer and meditating on God's word in silence that has been very healing for me. But then there's also the discipline of community, of inviting the right people, whether it's a pastor, mentor, spouse, friend, but somebody who you trust their walk with Jesus and trust that they love you enough to be honest with you. So I think it's learning, because John had to go to his disciples to get the message to Jesus. So, which actually, if you think about it, was a very humbling thing. He was their teacher, and he has to say, hey, I don't even know if what I led y'all to believe is true, but I need you to go and talk to Jesus and get him this message. That had to take great humility on his part. So I think we have to have the same humility to just ask for help sometimes, and invite other people into our journey. So yeah, there's the moving towards God in our heart and in our soul and in our disciplines. But I think a lot of times we have to put flesh on that by how we move towards other people who are the people of God.
So the motivation to isolate, like in that case study, the motivation is what and why? Because if we can understand the motivation behind what's causing us to desire to separate from community, as you said, to isolate and go at it alone, especially when we're dealing with the self-talk of, he's proven he's not faithful. I have to fix my life. I have to fulfill my life in my own strength. What's the motivation to isolate, Wade? If we can get that, I think we can move forward.
I don't know everyone's motivation. I can speak for myself.
Please.
My motivation has been, especially as a pastor, as somebody who some people look to as a leader in the church, my motivation was an image that I thought I had to project of strength, and a fear of what people would think of me if they really knew how weak I was sometimes and how much I struggled sometimes, or if they knew the depth of my disappointment. So I think there was a fear of I've always struggled with being a people pleaser and with fear of man. And so I think I feel that the strongest when things don't seem to be working out, or if they would make it look like, oh, Wade doesn't have it all together. Oh, look at him. He took a risk and he failed. I felt that very strongly this year in a season of stepping away from a job I held for 15 years to do my best to follow God. And there's still this voice in my head and in my heart that says, you're going to fall flat on your face, and then what are they going to think about you? And so then there's that. Then that's where imposter syndrome comes up, but also this like, well, I've got to project this image like I have it all together. And when we do that, we don't let people in, we can't heal, and we can't truly connect with others. And I believe we hold a big piece of our heart back from God when we operate like that. So that's been one of my motivations whenever I tend to isolate is, I don't want people to know how scared I actually am.